James, Paul, Tim, Elliot, and Clive. This is Arsecast Extra and ArsenalVision live.
Hello again. Wow. Every time it gives you the goosebumps coming out.
The willies.
Yeah. It's amazing to see all of you here. Thank you so much for being with us again. Year 4, third time at Union Chapel, and it's fun, and we hope you guys are going to have a fun night with us. Before we start, though, I think we should just take a moment. And just maybe outside of our Arsenal bubble a little bit, say well done to Crystal Palace for winning the FA Cup. Woo!
And while we're on the congratulating people topic, I think the one thing that we want to do quickly is congratulate all of you and thank all of you who gave so generously to the Arsenal Foundation fundraiser, for Andrew's generosity. It was another incredible year. £360,000 you raised. Over 4,000 of you gave. Thank you. It makes a huge difference, and it means a lot to those kids.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing to do, and we were looking at the totals that this fundraiser and the donations have generated over the last, 4 years now?
I think it's 5 years now, over 1.5 million.
1.5 million pounds from like Egypt's with a podcast. So if we can do it, anyone can do it, and more people should do it, I think. So yeah, thank you all. Thank you all very much indeed. And can we as well take a moment to wish a very happy birthday to Elliot Smith. Woo! Apparently, it's his 21st.
I am legal drinking age.
He's of legal drinking age.
If anyone wants to buy me a drink later in the bar.
So to give you an idea of what we're going to be doing, obviously we'll be talking about the season and talking about some of the moments and players of the season as we normally do. We also have a raffle. You should have all got a raffle ticket on the way in. If you didn't, I don't know what to do about that.
Bad luck, I guess.
Bad luck. You've already lost. Part 2, we will be giving away some pretty cool Arsenal merchandise, signed shirts, some
signed ball, and player-worn warm-ups,
player-worn training tops. I don't know if that is that second-hand.
I mean, don't wash it.
I think they've been washed since, so we'll do that in part 2 as well as take your questions in part 2, which we normally do in Arsecast Extra style. We'll tell you how you can submit your questions towards the end of part 1. To start with, we did want to just maybe talk about the season as a whole, an overall view, quick little summation of the season so far. I don't know who to start with. Clive, you just looked at me like you didn't want to start, so clearly you're the man. So
I'm just wondering where you're going to stop with the small talk, right? So yeah, it's been an up and down season, hasn't it? Right? Emotionally for us all, it's felt a little bit tough on occasions, and every time you take a step forward, you take a step back. But within the adversity, you find things. You find players, you find people, you find how they react. And you, as a group of supporters, it's been a challenge for us to sort of stay connected to the group, etc. But because our expectations were so high. But in my own personal opinion, I think it's been a learning season. And learning is one thing, but action is the next thing that you do. And so I'm happy to learn as long as we do learn, right? And that's really important because I think we're ready. I think we're ready for the next phase. And I think it's so important to keep the alignment and connection to us all, that we get to that next phase, our ambitions and how we feel about a team. We have that alignment end to end. So a challenging year. I don't like referees from Manchester. I don't like You know, you guys have listened to me long enough. You know how I feel. I'm trying to hold it back because it's a live audience. But a very challenging year. But you know what? There's always another game. There's one tomorrow. There you go.
Paul, anything to add to that about, I don't know, referees? No, I don't go on referees.
No, I've got something for referees.
I'm sure.
They have this thing in genocidal campaigns where afterwards you have a peace and reconciliation council. I think if you can come to terms with the genocidal murderers, we can meet with the PGMOL and work through things.
Who had
That really wasn't where I was expecting you to go.
Genocide.
Really? The season? Yeah. So here's what, there was a lot of noise. There is a lot of noise this season. There's a lot of stuff going on. I think the danger is you confuse the signal, gets lost in all of that noise. The signal with this club, where it's going, this team, our manager, the direction. The signal is strong. Don't get lost in the noise. And as supporters, as a club, as the people around the club, don't fuck this up. We've got a really good thing going.
Well said, Paul. Well said.
Tim?
Yeah, on Paul's message not to get lost in the noise, I got lost in the noise. You know those people who can just really let things go and are just okay to hear and read and see nonsense? I'm not one of those people. So this season has been really, really tough in terms of the external noise. But I think we did learn things about the teams this season. But at the same time, I think there are things we probably knew. We were carrying some risks coming into the season, and they got really, really exacerbated by injuries and et cetera, and all those things we talked about hundreds and hundreds of times already. So I am kind of ready for this one to end, if I'm completely honest, which I haven't felt like for a couple of years, but I definitely repeat Paul's message to go with the signal rather than the noise, and I will continue to ignore that advice and get absolutely furious.
James?
Yeah, I mean, the guys have put it really well. There's sort of a beautiful logic and rationale to it, and I love sort of seeing the positivity and the learnings. My summary of the season is sort of, we got fucked. I pitched that to the Athletic. Weirdly, they didn't go for it.
Now, the thing is, James, you have 9 medical orifices, right? It wasn't just through one orifice, was it?
It wasn't, Paul. I'm glad you said that. I'm probably the only one. Yeah, I mean, we got fucked. We got fucked by red cards. We got fucked by injuries. Maybe we fucked ourselves a bit in the transfer market. But it's been tough. And don't get me wrong, definitely some amazing high points and a really sort of consistent standard of achievement across the last few years. Get all that. But, like, I'm with Tim. I mean, fuck this season, honestly. But very happy to share it all with you guys.
Elliot, is there any way you can add to anything that any of them have said?
I think, first of all, on the topic of getting fucked, it is my birthday and my wife is in the audience, so fingers crossed for me. Now, having gotten that out of the way, I think we also have to remember who we support and the big club that we all love, and you have to spare a minute sometimes for context to think of the smaller clubs, the struggles they're going through. Look at the 16th and 15th place teams in the Premier, 17th and 16th place teams in the Premier League, and we don't have to deal with that, thankfully, because we're much larger and more impressive clubs than they are. I think, on a serious note about the season, it is, if you were grading, I'd give it an incomplete. It just feels like it never started, right? From the bad sendings off at the beginning of the season to the injuries, there was never momentum. And if you think about last season didn't start great, but come January, we really hit form and we had an incredible run-in. And we created some momentum. You see what you can do when you get a chance to get up ahead of steam. And I don't feel like we ever got that chance. But even in a season with all of those things, and we'll come to this in the next part of the show, I'm always going to remember the Bernabeu. I'm always going to remember beating Real Madrid. I'm going to remember getting one over on Manchester City and, doing the double over Tottenham. And so there's so many good things, even in a season that feels disappointing. But I think the thing we should recognize is we only feel disappointed because the expectations have gone up so high. 5 years ago, we would have regarded this as one of our best seasons in 2 decades. Today, our expectations are different, and that's a good thing. Now we have to live up to them.
Fair. Paul, you had something.
Yeah. So, like James, really early in the season when there was still everything to play for, I kept hearing you on the Arsecast saying, it really doesn't feel like this is going to be our season.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, some bad things are going to have happened, and we got lots of season left, and you kept saying it. I really don't feel it's going to be our season.
Are you saying I manifested this?
I'm saying you were prescient.
James, I don't remember the last serious injury or illness you've had, so that might explain why we haven't had the season.
What I enjoyed was, when the bad things kept happening, people kept saying to me, well, maybe that means it is going to be our year. Because the last 2 years, it really felt like it was, and then it wasn't. And they were wrong as well. But, I don't know. I just had a sort of funny feeling about it. And I think, I might have, I could have been wrong, Paul, We could be in Munich next week, It's such fine margins, and your individual response to it is obviously, your own. But from about September, October, I kind of had this sort of Damoclean sword hanging over us, and I was like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
But, as everyone says, relatively, it is pretty darn good.
Andrew, you?
I don't know what to add to that other than I think, what everybody said about learning from this season. I don't think it's fatal to take a little step back, particularly when you've taken so many steps forward to get to where we were. And then if you do regress very slightly, I think the important thing is how you respond to that. And, I'm confident that this is a club and this is a team that can look at what went wrong and what didn't, the things that we could control at least, and do better this summer and going forward into next season in terms of who we have available, what we have available to us throughout the season in key areas of the pitch, and maybe how we play. Little changes in that. I think it can be really beneficial for things to go wrong because you have to stop and think and analyze about how then to improve on those difficulties, So, yeah. Like everyone, I'm sort of looking forward to wiping the slate clean a little bit. I know we've got a big game tomorrow against Newcastle, which will seal second place, which I think is something we need to do just to sort of psychologically go into next season in the summer, feeling that we've done at least the bare minimum.
And on the bright side, now we have 3 months of listening to people we've never heard of before that day telling us who we're about to sign. So that'll be fun.
What's that? Transfers? Do we do that? So one of the things that we do every season or every year when we do the show is pick a moment of the season. So there are some positive ones and there are some negative ones. And maybe just to sort of kick us off on a slightly negative note, because we're there and we're talking about it, the moment of the season for me, perhaps aligning with what James was talking about, was the Declan Rice sending off. Yeah. Where I think that was illustrative of what was to come this season.
That was orifice number 1, I would say.
That was the main orifice as well. But ever since then...
Don't fade the other orifices.
Ever since that moment that felt unjust and unprecedented in a way until it happened a couple of weeks later for Leandro Trossard, it sort of felt like, as I said, I think on the Arsecast with Amy on Friday, it felt like sort of pushing a boulder uphill all the way through. So as a moment of the season that sort of demonstrates some of the more difficult times we had, I think that's the one that I was going to go for.
Who's got a positive one to sort of,
balance.
Yeah, strike a balance.
I've got one.
Go on then, Clive.
Although I'm now thinking about that game against Brighton where our lives changed, right? So I do think the moment for me was Man City at home, actually. I thought it's been a long time trying to overcome them, but overcome them, we had a 1-0 against them, but overcome them properly. And we really did take them to school a little bit and really smash them. And all the people around me were beyond excited. And I think looking down that pitch, And the fifth goal with Ethan Wanyeri just curling it into the net, you sort of look at the club, look at its values, look at what we do with our youth players, and to see that young man come onto the pitch and stick it there, I thought it was like a beautiful moment. So that's like my highlight so far.
And I think we need to point out that City haven't really recovered from that and lost the FA Cup final today. Tim, give us your moment of the season.
Yeah, sure. As we all know, when Arsenal played Real Madrid in the Champions League ahead of the second leg, all the talk was of remontada. And as we know, Arsenal women pulled off the remontada against Real Madrid. Yeah, very, very special night at the Emirates, overturning a 2-goal lead. One of those times, like sometimes the atmosphere from Meadow Park to the Emirates doesn't always entirely translate, but I think it really, really did that night. I know the players really, really appreciated the support that they got. And I have to say, I wouldn't say this anywhere online, but Real Madrid really deserved that because of the pitch they made those players play on in the first leg. And in the press box in the first leg, I was sat next to the woman from Real Madrid TV. That was a very tough night for me personally. And at the second leg, I was looking for her again. But no, Arsenal women beating Real Madrid 3-0 and setting up, this brilliant Champions League run they've been on.
Yeah, amazing. We'll talk maybe a little bit later on, a little question about what's coming up next week in Lisbon and the huge opportunity for Arsenal to win the Champions League this season, which is one of the huge positives, that the club can take. Elliot, have you got a moment of the season for us?
Yeah, I do. I just want to make a point, by the way, though, that every time I come here and we do this and I step out onto the stage, I'm immediately nervous, right? And then after a couple of moments, it subsides and it gets a little easier. But every time I see Paul gesture to bring the mic to his mouth, the nerves come back. Yeah. So it's just, there it is.
At least he's bringing the mic to his mouth. I mean, that's new.
Pavlovian. I think because we all wanted to share moments around and not just be happy, clappy about it, my moment of the season is when the January window closed. We took a gamble on getting lucky with the fit players we had, and that gamble did not pay off, as it turns out. And as much as Mikel Merino number 9 was great, I don't think that would have been the plan or what anybody wanted. So we got a little unlucky with what happened from there on, but I think there was a clear opportunity in that window, and we saw other clubs take that opportunity. But a clear opportunity for us to maybe just invest in the possibility of this season. We didn't, and in the end, I think we may have some regret about that. So for me, that is a moment where the season diverged. We got unlucky with additional injuries, and from there, I think it was impossible for us to recover to the extent we would have liked.
Yeah. Just to jump, I mean, obviously, this is a bit sort of falsified because we all tried to choose different ones. You probably we would all say Real Madrid, right?
Yeah.
But on the theme of we got fucked, I will say that my moment was just off the back of that transfer window. Hearing that Kai Havertz had been injured in Dubai, because honestly, we were all looking at Dubai as this moment of rest and recuperation, and it had this amazing transformative effect last season. And then when that happens, it's like you think fucking Ant and Dec are going to come out and tell you you're being pranked. It was so mad that you couldn't write it, and unfortunately, I had to write it. And I just think that was, maybe the nail in the coffin, the final orifice, if you will, when I was like, this is just too much. And so, very happy to see him back, though, and hopefully we see him tomorrow.
The nail in the final orifice.
We don't kink shame on the podcast, but that's not a thing.
So come on, Paul, give us your moment of the season.
For me, it's very easy. There was the second half of this game that took us to another place that was otherworldly. It's what is happening here? Real Madrid. Declan Rice steps up one time. Declan Rice steps up a second. He couldn't, could he? He did. Mikel Merino drifting into the box with a worldly class. And it must have connected us all in that moment. It was transcendent. It was like, what is happening here? It just took us to a high. And I'm sure we all felt, look, we don't know how this plays out, but this is what it's about. This took you to levels that you search for in a season, moments in a season, moments that make it beyond the normal, beyond the mundane. It was like ridiculous, crazy. Nobody could have scripted it. And it was just beyond what you're looking for in a moment in the season, something beyond anything we could have considered before that season started. That was a period of, I don't know what it was, 15 minutes where I'm like, what the hell? Who are these guys? How am I? Oh, don't let it stop. Don't screw it up in the second leg. We didn't.
I just want to say one thing on that, though. I do think, look, it didn't go the way we wanted in Paris, but I think the performance was what we wanted, and sometimes football will disappoint you in that way. I think proving to ourselves we belonged on that stage with Madrid and beating them handily set us up to understand that we belong at the top level of football, and I think we showed that largely when we went to Paris, and I think next season, as we get into those moments again, there's going to be a lot more belief that we can do it because we saw ourselves do it against Madrid. So I think that is an experience. When I look at how we played at Bayern, I didn't see the belief. I think we saw it in Paris. It just didn't go our way, but I think we are set up to be able to manage those big moments now moving forward.
Clive, I mean, just expanding on that, if the Premier League season has been disappointing based on expectations, is the Champions League something that we can take a real positive from by getting to the stage that we did? You come away from a semi-final with regrets because maybe we didn't do quite enough with the chances that we had, but maybe those regrets are better than getting played off the park, if you know what I mean. So I think that there's a step forward in Europe, and that can be something for to lay groundwork, let's say, for next season, not just in the Champions League, but also in the Premier League. If you can do that to Real Madrid, even if it's not the best version of Real Madrid, you really do believe, and you take a lot from it.
Yeah, you say the best version of Real Madrid, not the best version. But actually, before the tie, no one was saying that, were they?
Oh, that's true.
No one was saying that. And I think the belief started at Inter Milan, funny enough. Second half, remember that? We came out and we dominated them. And, it continued in Lisbon, it continued on. Obviously, PSV and Madrid came along, and we were hopeful. I think this is a massive highlight. It's as big as anything to get your club into the last four of the Champions League when the world is watching. And so from an Arsenal perspective, we're now seen as a team that belongs at that level. But most importantly, I think the players believed they belonged to that level because the disappointment when they did lose to PSG was evident. It wasn't like, oh, we got there, well done, let's go home. It was like, no, we could have won, we should have won, and we're now disappointed. And that is progress. Despite our disappointment, that is progress. I don't think there's been anything bigger than that. I think the rest of the football world were thinking, Arsenal could win this. And that's what's quite frustrating. We're probably a player or two short. Kai Havertz, a player or two short, and that would have really helped. But
yeah, Clive, let's remind ourselves, they had their full team. We did not have anything like key positions. We lacked key players.
Yeah, and we weren't at full power. And I think there's a story to be told, not about the players on the pitch, but the condition of those players. There are a few players that are really hanging there a little bit. But that's our learning, isn't it? To make sure we got the depth, make sure we arrive in April with the right level of fitness. And I think that's the one we've got to take forward next year.
So we're going to talk about players. We're going to talk about a player each. Not necessarily the player of the season, but a player who we think is worth mentioning and talking about. James, you want to go first?
Yeah, I will. I wanted to talk about David Raya, who I think has had an outstanding season. I think obviously in the second half of last season he came on leaps and bounds, and we saw really, why the club signed him, and he looked increasingly confident. I think this year he's gone up another level. There were those astonishing reflex saves, the double saves. But I think it's in general like the air of calm that he brings at the back. I just think he's been superb. And in a season where a lot of first-team players have been in and out, or major players have had injuries, or have performed maybe for one half of the season, but not as well in the other half, I think he's been super consistent. And I was pleased to see him given the number 1 shirt because he's very, very worthy of it.
Yeah. Just sort of while we're on that, I mean, thoughts on what we do for a number 2 goalkeeper next season? Obviously, Neto will go back to Bournemouth. There's talk of spending a considerable chunk on Joan Garcia.
Yeah.
It is something that you need. I'm not aligned with Elliot in the just get any old guy.
How many refrigerators do you have in your home?
Yeah.
I've got one
refrigerator.
One refrigerator. And I've got freezer out the back. So, but James, thoughts on how we provide that depth, or is it too difficult to pick the workings of Iñaki Canya's mind?
It's really tough, because if we do go out and spend 30 million or 25 million on another goalkeeper, I mean, God forbid we get another load of press conferences where Mikel's asked about if he's got one number 1 or 2 number 1s or whatever. I can't sit through that again. So I think I would be more in the camp of for me, David is really clearly the number 1. And I think he just needs a guy who can deputise, a guy who can play, but realistically having 2 goalkeepers of similar levels, I think it's really, really difficult to maintain. I don't know. I mean, I'm intrigued to see what happens with Karl Hein. He's been out on loan. He's played a season in La Liga. He's our player. He's got 2 more years of contract. Could that be a solution? I'm not so sure. I don't know, but something to consider. I certainly wouldn't be in the camp of spending that kind of money on a keeper if it stopped us doing something else.
Yeah, I think people would prefer us to spend the money on a striker or 2.
I think they might, yeah.
Maybe. I don't want to presume to speak for anybody.
We keep skipping you, Andrew, so why don't you do your player of the season?
Well, the player I just wanted to talk about was William Saliba, who I think has maybe had a couple of moments where he's not at his immaculate best, but I do think there's something to be said for the amount of minutes that he's played, and people will say the best ability is availability. He's always available. He's been at the heart of the defence from the first game right until the last, fingers crossed. Nobody's played more outfield minutes than him, and I think he deserves an awful lot of credit for the way he plays. What's sort of interesting about him is when mistakes happen, they take you by surprise because he makes so few, particularly for a central defender who's still only 24. It's amazing, and I think he's been excellent. And hopefully, our new sporting director can sit him down with a pen and paper and make him sign a new contract, or convince him rather to sign a new contract. Because I think alongside a player Tim's going to talk about, we have probably the best central defensive pairing in the Premier League, and I hope we can keep it together for years to come.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to talk about Big Gabby because largely because the light shining on us here remind me a bit of his teeth. But there are some things in football that just never go out of style, never go out of fashion. And I think having a hard bastard at centre half never goes out of fashion. And but I think he's more than that as well. And I think sometimes when I look at this team, I overcompensate a little bit because I see a lot of things in this team that I missed 10 years ago, i.e. guys that, you'd back in the car park kind of thing. And I didn't see enough of that 10 years ago, and it used to frustrate me. It used to frustrate me when guys like Troy Deeney would come on for 5 minutes and then come and mouth off in press conferences about how weak we were and everything, and that really bothered me. And I think when you've got a player like Gabriel in your team, that doesn't happen anymore, and his kind of dominance in both boxes, and he scored the winner in the North London derby away at Tottenham as well, and that always deserves a round of applause.
He's got a great song, too. What a song. Banger.
Elliot, who's your player?
Well, it should surprise no one that we're going to hear about the defense a lot tonight, right?
Yeah.
So I say a lot of dumb things on the podcast, and one of the dumb things I said in the summer is that we're going to have to be really thoughtful about how we use our fullbacks this season because Jurrien Timber coming off ACL surgery is not going to be able to play every game. And Jurrien Timber has played just about every game, and he's been absolutely magnificent. It is easy to focus on the things we lose, the players who maybe aren't in the form we hope, and we all know who they are, and forget the things we found. And the fullbacks on both sides are players we probably would not have expected to have the seasons they did. But Timber has proven himself, I think, in 1v1 defending to be one of the best fullbacks in football. From a 1v1 defensive standpoint, he's intelligent, he makes great decisions, and I think right now that might be the hardest position in football, fullback, because the wingers are so emphasized now. They are so difficult to stop. And then you're also asked to be on the ball an awful lot. Now, granted, we invert from the left side a little more, but he's on the ball a lot. He didn't get to develop the relationship with Bukayo as much as he might have liked because Saka was out. He didn't get to develop a relationship with Kai because he was out. Odegaard was out. But as those players came in and went out, his level stayed consistent. He had to lock up Vinny Jr., which he did. One of the hardest assignments in world football. I think he's been brilliant, and I can't wait to see where he goes from here.
And he's a hard bastard as well.
I guess it would make sense, Clive, for you to follow that up with a chat about another fullback who's caught the eye a little bit this season.
Yeah, I think what's wonderful about football is when it surprises you, and I got to mention Miles Lewis Skelly basically. Yeah, because we're all nerds, we've seen him come for the youth team, and then basically he's come as a centre mid, and he came into the first team as a left back, and I looked at him and thought, is he going to be able to handle this? He handled every single occasion, obviously the Spurs, the Man City, but for me, what he did versus Madrid was just up, right up there, to have that personality to go into that environment and play like he did in the home game. He was so solid. I think he's really focused on locking down his side. His one-on-one ability is unbelievable. To have the personality to come inside, receive the ball in the crowded areas, then come out of there at 18. I mean, mate, what you doing, mate? There's a disco for you to go to. Just like, what are you doing? And I think when you look at him, obviously he's a well-rounded individual. He represents London really well. But he's ambitious, and you can see it in his game. He's not satisfied with being a youngster in the squad. He wants that shirt. He wants that shirt. He wants it every single week. And it's those type of people you want in your team, because that's going to take us to the next level. So for me, he's been one of the biggest highlights of the season.
I wanted to maybe follow up just a quick question before Paul gives us his player is not just what Miles has done on the pitch, but there's been a bit to deal with off the pitch as well. And I think he has, a great personality. You can see it. He's a winner. You remember that interview after the Tottenham game where he basically, I'm not afraid of anyone. He's giving it to the Tottenham fans going off. It's a big personality. And that's a really important part of being able to do what he does at that age, right?
Yeah, we have this thing in this country where we build people up to knock them down. We didn't even build him up; we were knocking him down, and it just feels strange. Other sports, they sort of bring people in properly. When you have a player like that that's come and plays for his country and scores within 15 minutes, you have to look at yourself and say, why am I attacking him? And you have the problem, not him. And he's managed to have that protective state around him, to not listen to stuff that we all listen to, and still go out there and play really, really well. He's a credit to the club, to his family, and he represents us in the best way possible.
Paul, your player of the season, or the player you want to talk about?
I'd like to go with £100 million Declan Rice.
I hear we got him half price.
Yeah.
Just because he's Irish, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, he was for a bit.
But we've let that go, haven't we, Andre?
Paul, yes. No recrimination.
So, the thing about players of that expense is they generally don't deliver, right? And David Moyes has a point. They got screwed over West Ham. He said by an extra 50 million. That's probably about right. He's about a £150 million player. We saw him matched. That's what's really interesting. You see him matched against top teams, he brings his game. Top other midfielders, he brings his game. Up against Jude Bellingham, your eyes only go to one player between those two. Why did we go and get him? I'm convinced that there's a match every season that Mikel kind of looks back on as his benchmark. And the summer we got him, we'd played City, and they'd done us again. And it was clear Rodri had dominated that game. And it was clear to me that Mikel had said to himself, now I'm sure he already knew it, but the thing that we needed to be to match them was to be able to match them from that position in midfield, or that physical, dominant, mental player who holds the center, the gravity of a team. We went and got him. We spent the money. There was no other player for us, and we brought him in. And, he's had a season. He's had another season. I was in the camp of, he's a world-class player as a 6. He's a very good player as a left 8. Did I see enough for him to become an 8? And in this season, second half of this season, I think he's a world-class number 8. We always have a little more space on the left-hand side than the right in terms of how we set up. And his ranginess, he's really running into it. There's the Real Madrid goals. And I think after that, you see a notch up in his aggressiveness, his confidence in getting into the box. Not just the box, the 6-yard box, into those spots where a striker goes, where you'd expect Havertz, or you see him at times and you're like, oh, I assume that was Marino now, or it would have been Havertz, and he's right there. He's on the 6-yard line. He's got a level of confidence in terms of that aggression, those runs from midfield. I think he's, even in the very tail end of the season, he's gone to a new level that maybe we haven't fully clocked in. I think he's just gone a level, and then one level more. And of course, we all see his leadership. Against the biggest teams, the biggest games, he's going to step up. And Declan Rice.
Get back on it, because we're doing our favourite goal of the season, and seeing as you've waxed so lyrical about Declan Rice.
Declan Rice.
Yeah. So which Declan Rice goal by Declan Rice is your favourite Declan Rice goal this season, Paul?
There were a lot of really funny jokes about, the best goal till the next best. I can't construct that thing about the free kicks. It was the best free. But, wow, those 2 free kicks. You watch darts and the guys that, and he's got to get 180, and he's got the one dart in there, and then he's going for the third into the treble 20. There's no fucking space, right? And yet he fucking gets that third one in there. When it's only 2 darts, but it's a smaller gap. The second one, and Donna Summers, sorry, I'd forgotten her name there for a second there, lost a little football cred. But Donna Summers knows what's coming on the second goal. She's ready, right? Wearing the sparkly dress, she's ready. She knows which side it's coming. And he finds that postage stamp in the top corner. Maybe I don't remember it all right.
I'm nodding, but I have no idea. It's all totally off the rails.
And you can see he's so relaxed on the second one. He's like, sure, fuck it. Right? He's like, the first one he's tense. The second one he's like, sure, fuck it.
So you were supposed to pick one of them.
The second one.
Because I was going to pick one.
I'm going to pick I really talked about the second one, the sure, fuck it one.
Well, then fine, because I can pick the first one, which I think we've had a discussion. You actually liked better, Andrew.
I like the first one. I love the second one, but I like the first one better.
Okay, it's like choosing between my children. I like the first one, but I like the second one better. I'm kidding. And
yet, when people make jokes about things, in the background there's a little bit of truth.
No truth. So anyway, but the thing I love about the first one, and this maybe speaks to who Declan Rice is, because he's got Nicholas Jover telling him to cross it. He's got Martin Odegaard telling him to cross it, and he says to B, "Think I can score from here."
Fuck it, he said.
Yeah, he said, fuck it.
Fuck it.
And to have the confidence when you've got, let's say it, like a pretty good set piece coach who's pretty specific about what he wants, and it's worked out pretty well for a while. And you say, no, I know we're playing Real Madrid in the Champions League. I'm just going to bend this around the wall and into the side netting. And that's exactly what he did. So it's a great goal, not just for the execution, but to have the confidence in that moment to say, I'm him, as the kids say. And as a fellow kid myself, now that I'm 21, he is him, and he showed that with that goal.
Yeah, great goal. I'm
Yep.
just going back to the Donna Summer thing there. It took me a while to work out what was going on. I was waiting for a 70s disco analogy, and then I realized you were talking about the goalkeeper.
It's funny because in my head it's really fucking obvious and everybody's on the same page. I'm like, they're not really reacting yet.
Sometimes it takes you a while to get to where you're going, Paul. That's the only thing I would say about that. Tim, give us your goal of the season, please.
On the theme of top bins in the Champions League, Mariona Caldente in Lyon. And I think there's something instructive for the men's team as well there in there, right? Like they went to Lyon, a goal down, a bit like the men's team went to PSG, 1 goal down. They start really well. They dominate tactically. They're really, really strong. They've got this big team on the ropes. But at some point, someone needs to stick it in the top corner. And that's what Mariona does. The tie's level at the time. It's right on half-time. And she sticks it in the top corner from 25 yards. And at the top level, no matter how well you're coached, how good your tactics are, someone needs to smash it in the top corner once in a while. And that's the goal that really wins Arsenal the semi-final and puts them in Lisbon next week. And it's also instructive for the women that last season they had creativity problems. So what did they do? They just bought one of the best creative players in the world. And now they don't have creativity problems. And there's something instructive there for the men's team, right, as well, in terms of goal scoring. It's just sometimes you don't have something and you just have to buy it in.
Yep. Some more goals would be nice. A goal scorer would be nice. We might talk about strikers in part 2. I'm sure we'll have a question or two about that, for sure. We'll tell you in a minute how you can submit your questions. I'm going to go very quickly on my favourite goal of the season, which was Ricardo Calafiori against Manchester City. Not just because it was a brilliant goal, but he had no fucking idea what to do after he scored it. And sort of lost his mind and jumped on top of Mikel Arteta and shook himself off and went back.
I think for Ricardo Calafiori, if in doubt, just take your shirt off.
Anyone going to argue? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. So that's my goal. James, give us a goal.
You're right, Andrew. I think sometimes it's about the goal, and you can have a great goal, but a lot of the time, what happens immediately afterwards, the celebration, is just as important. So I've got to shout out Miles Lewis-Skelly against Manchester City. A great goal on its own, but an iconic moment afterwards. And all the bullshit about we don't want to see, that's exactly what we want to see. That was the best, funniest thing that happened in the Premier League this season. And the effects on Erling Haaland, I mean, the humility. Today he was so humble, he couldn't even take the penalty.
The penalty that was missed, or saved rather, by a goalkeeper who probably shouldn't have been on the pitch.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Amazing. Imagine how fucking bald Pep is, and we're sitting here quite bald indeed. He's gone mega bald.
You have the glassiest glass house I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I know.
I know, incredible. There's actually no lights on us, really. It's just reflecting off us. Incredible.
Clive, have you got a goal for us?
I just didn't realise how much people love Crystal Palace. I'll tell you that. It's really
Only today.
It's really been a shock. I have many sayings, as you guys know. One of my sayings is, you never arrive. You always got to improve. But when Saka chipped keeper at the Bernabeu, I thought, we've arrived. We've arrived. I thought that team goal was just fantastic, and the way it was constructed. And he just chipped the keeper, and just, again, the celebration was really iconic. I thought that moment, chipping the keeper at the Bernabeu, oh my God, it can't get better than this. And then we sort of threw one in about 20 seconds later, which I didn't get a chance to really celebrate. But that moment, you sort of knew we were going through, and we really achieved something. And I think Bukayo really, he is the franchise, right, isn't he? He is the man. And that moment there was epitomises that.
Amazing goal. It's occurred to me that we've talked about some players this season, and we've talked about Miles Lewis-Skelly and what he's done at a very young age. But it would be probably remiss of us not to mention Ethan Nwaneri as well, who has, in a very, very short period of time, developed a trademark goal, which is amazing for a player with such limited playing time in his first full season. He's almost in double figures for the season as well in terms of goals. Hasn't maybe played as much as we might like lately, but I think it has been a really positive season for him, what he's done and what he can bring to this team and how he can develop.
It's been amazing. 12 months ago, we would have been looking at it and saying, what's coming through from the academy? We all wanted to see it. There was talk about players who got on the bench but never got off the bench. Were they getting the opportunity? And then we were all in America seeing these boys on tour, Miles and Ethan, and they looked the absolute business. But never in your wildest dreams do you think, well, I imagine they'll just be doing that in the Champions League soon. I mean, absolutely incredible. And a huge credit to them and credit to the manager as well for trusting them, for giving them that opportunity. That takes courage and bravery and experience to do. And I think it's really one of the big good news stories of the season.
Yeah, for sure. Red card of the season or too soon?
I mean, we have enough people here. We could just about cover them.
Just do one each. There's an area where maybe we need to improve as well next season. Not as many red cards. Tim, before we
More
go into
brown
the break,
envelopes under the doors of PGMOL representatives. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or we could put something else under the door, but
Oh my goodness.
But hey, Tim, Lisbon next week, a huge opportunity for Arsenal women, a Champions League final. Again, probably something that nobody really thought was in the locker this season, particularly after Jonas Eidevall was let go and Rene Sleggers was brought in, did a great job as an interim manager, and has obviously done an incredible job to get the team that far. Somebody who has followed the fortunes of Arsenal women for a very long time now. How does that achievement stack up, and how are you feeling about next week and the difficulty of the task, I guess, against Barcelona?
Yeah, nobody should be under any illusions about the difficulty of that task. They did beat Chelsea 8-2 on aggregate in the semi-final, which is at once quite funny, but also quite scary as well. But when Arsenal won it in 2007, they were probably at a similar level of kind of underdog status. But I mean, it's going to be incredibly difficult. Arsenal are going to have to be a mixture of perfect and lucky to win. But I think what we've seen from Arsenal this season is that their ceiling is so high, and we saw that in Lyon as well. And when you consider they've been to Lyon twice in the last 18 months, 8-time Champions League winners, and they've beaten them 4-1 and 5-1. So Arsenal are very capable at their absolute top level of pulling a performance out. Unfortunately, Barca, even on a bad day, can steamroll you. But it's been such an interesting season. But I really think, even maybe by accident, Arsenal have really found something in Rene Sleggers. And I think she reminds me of Mikel Arteta quite a lot, actually, particularly because I think there's a big off-pitch cultural piece she wants to do. But I think tactically, she's very good. She's very strong. I'll be really interested to see what she does with her first transfer window. But I think getting to the Champions League final again, because we are the only British team to have won the Champions League. Not sure if I've mentioned that before. And just as good as obviously all the talk has been about Chelsea doing it, understandably, but it would be so funny if we just did it again after they spent like £2 million in January. That would almost be as good as the achievement itself.
Well, let's hope so. You're going to be in Lisbon covering the game pre and after and everything else, so fingers crossed. It's a good trip for you, a successful trip for you. So before we go into the break, which we're going to do now, I want to tell you how you can submit your questions. We have like a little website thing. I guess I have to call out a URL to you guys. So if you're interested in submitting a question, take out your phone, and the URL is p1r.es. That's our link shortener, /Union Chapel 25. So p1r.es /Union Chapel 25. So you can submit your questions there during the break, and we'll pick some of those, and we'll do those in part two, your questions.
We'll pick the one question that got the URL right.
Otherwise, we'll just have to make some up. So please do submit those. We'll do the raffle as well and have a good chat in part 2. So for now, we're going to take a break. You guys can go up and have a drink in the bar, and we'll be back in about 30 minutes, 8:45 thereabouts, and we'll be here for part 2. So thank you very much.
Arsenal.
Let's go.
Amazing. You're all in great voice as usual. Thank you so much. Welcome back to part 2, where we are going to take some of your questions in a few minutes. Elliot has been busy filtering out the ones asking personal things about him, so that's fine. But we have some prizes to give away. We've been very generously given some stuff by the club. Elliot?
Yeah, I want to thank, obviously, the club and Freddie Hudson, who runs Arsenal in the community. Freddie is one of the most wonderful people you'll ever meet and a great representative of the club. And he helped out along with Mairead King, the head of the Arsenal Foundation. As a thank you to all of you for giving, there's some really, really good items for us to give away.
Yeah, we've got like a signed shirt, we have got a signed football, and we've got 6 training tops to give away, player-worn training tops. So what we're going to do is pick numbers. You should all have had a raffle ticket. And what we'll do is afterwards, if you guys come up to the stage, we'll make a note of who's won what, rather than people coming up and down throughout the show. So Paul, you're going to be the number picker here. And I should say that we do have some Arseblog and ArsenalVision people here tonight. As much as we love you, you guys can't win. So if you're pulled out, we'll have to cancel that and make sure it goes to somebody else. Seems fair.
All right, what are we drawing first?
We are drawing the signed shirt.
Yeah. Team signed shirt.
I'd like to say I'm unbiased, but this is how I meet women, so.
There's no mute button tonight. I can't do anything about this.
Number 10. Whoa. So if you've got number 10, you've won the signed shirt. We've got a signed football.
And a night with Paul.
No. Please pick another one.
Room number 677.
677. You've got a signed Arsenal football, so whoever that is, well done to you.
And a night with Paul.
And maybe pick a couple this time. Just pick a couple.
I'm not into that kind of stuff, Andrew.
You're going to be a busy guy, that's all I can say. We've got 757.
Mile High Club, Boeing.
And Number 607.
They haven't invented that aircraft yet.
Okay. Those are signed tops. Pick another couple. You're going to run out.
That,
You're going to run
Andrew.
out. Just
479.
479. That's a signed training top as well.
610.
610. All right.
How's my diction?
That is a question that I'm glad you completed.
265.
265. And one more training top.
244.
244. So,
Congratulations.
I'm Irish, right? I'm Irish and I'm from Dublin. Unfortunately, there were no threes in any of those numbers. No number 3.
333.
333. There was not a single.
You just get the night with Paul, 333.
How long are you in town for, Paul? Are you sure?
As long as it takes. It'll take a long time.
All right. Well, we have got your questions. Thank you to everyone who understood that URL and submitted a question. It wasn't the most fluent way of doing it, but it seems to have worked. So
It got the job done.
it got the job done, much like Paul.
Apparently. Okay. They all came in as anonymous. I guess it was hard to put your name in, so I apologize to the people whose name won't get called out. But this anonymous person asked a question about transfers and strikers. It'll shock you to hear. Clive, who is the dream striker? Isaac, Sesko, Gyökeres, or someone else? And I'm going to say, don't answer Isaac. That's too easy. Pick someone else.
Well, Isaac's a dream striker, right?
Okay, fine. I've already lost control.
I never listened to you anyway. You know that, right? So yeah. For me last year, it was always Isaac. But Sesko's the one. I think I just have a leaning towards him. I think he should have come last year, and so obviously it's Sesko, Gyökeres. Everyone's looking at those two, but I just have a slight leaning towards Sesko. But let's be honest, right? We need to find about 15 more goals. Either of them will get 15 goals that we need. And I don't think we need to overcomplicate it. They both kick the ball really, really hard with both feet. And there is nothing wrong with kicking the ball hard at the football net. There really isn't. You know,
It's this sort of analysis people subscribe for, really.
honestly. I think sometimes we overthink it, right? Look at Alan Shearer. I don't think it was that good, but look how hard he kicked it. Right? So, it's true, you know. Harry Kane can barely move, but look how he kicks it, right? So
He's kicking it hard.
So yeah, I'll go for it. Sesko slightly ahead.
All right. Well, then I guess I will ask this of you, Andrew. Do we need a midfield creator just as much as a striker? A lot of people saw the performance from Eberechi Eze today, which is pretty good. Like that player, in case you haven't noticed.
He wrote that question.
Scored a goal in the FA Cup final today, the one that Manchester City lost.
I heard
that
Manchester
FA Cup final,
City did lose that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, is midfield creator as much of a priority as striker?
I think so, or more creativity from midfield would certainly be very welcome. If we're going to have a couple of options up front, maybe we need a couple of options behind as well to provide for the striker, whoever it is, whether it's Sesko or Gyökeres or not Isaac, but whoever it is. I think we've suffered this season because of a lack of backup or competition for, however you want to put it, for Martin Odegaard. When he was out of the team, we struggled, and there's a big burden on him to be that guy in this team. And I think there are some reasons as to why his season hasn't been quite as effective as others. But the fact that he was basically our only option for that kind of job is a bit of a shortcoming in the squad. So I would certainly be open to another player to provide a bit of creativity, a bit of mischief in the opposition half. I think we could use that, and I hope it's something that we address during the summer.
It's an interesting quirk of the data that I think we all feel we need more goal scoring, and yet over the last several seasons, Arsenal have outperformed their XG more than anybody in the league. So when we create good chances, we're actually taking them at a high rate, which is not maybe what we all associate with the team. But the problem is we are far below in the number of those chances that we are creating. So maybe it is Clive, the addition of a striker who makes himself more available in those dangerous positions, or is it creating the chance that our already excellent attacking players, when fit, can get on the end of?
Yeah, I suppose in our minds, we all look for a player to be creative for us. So we put those dreams into one person. But creativity for me is all underpinned by good movement. And I think our movement suffered from losing 2 key forwards and losing another one for having 3 operations, basically. So our movement suffered. If you haven't got movement, you got no one, you're passing to standing still bodies, right? So you're not creating. So I think adding movement allows our players to pass better. When you got a good, strong running target, you're going to pass to him, right? If you got someone standing there looking at you, you're going to pass to him, but he's coming back, right? And that were a lot of things about direct attacks, etc. Direct attacks, more carrying, more running in behind, will look more creative straight away.
Yeah, nailed on. Tim, I don't want to typecast you, but who would be your player this season for the Arsenal women?
I mean, it's Mariana for sure. Mariana Caldente won the Arsenal.com, the Supporters Club. She actually won the WSL Player of the Season as well. And, you know, this conversation we're having here. This conversation we're having here about the men's team at the moment, what they need, creativity. That was exactly what Arsenal women were missing last season. So they bought someone who'd been in Barcelona's starting 11 for 10 years, and that fixed it. Sometimes it is just that simple.
Yeah, football can be a very simple game when someone can stick it in the back of the net from out of the blue.
And kick it really hard.
Yeah. That's why we have the tactical expert. Okay. Paul, I'll ask you this one, hesitantly. Why are we not talking about Marino as player of the season? Without him since January, we'd be in serious trouble. Aside from effectively managing the bank, is he someone who has been a candidate for player of the season with his emergency striker performances?
Yeah, he's a little bit of a special one. The class of his finishes is kind of unbelievable, isn't it?
Wait, are you making fun of Clive with that comment?
Yes.
Say his name, Clive.
Mourinho.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a special one. That's where that's coming from. Okay, go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah. And like, I've been working on my names because you've been giving me a lot of grief. So like...
Me?
Yeah, I was hoping you'd ask me the striker one because I picked my striker. Because you gave me a lot of grief, I went onto YouTube and I researched the striker's name, found his father saying how it's pronounced. Viktor Gyökeres. Viktor Gyökeres. So I hope we get him.
Was he in that Nosferatu movie?
Nosferatu, yeah.
I knew him from somewhere.
That guy, he was...
The microphone.
Oh, yeah. So, oops.
There it is.
Yeah, so like, it's a weird season. He can't be player of the season because it was like a snatch of the season. A section of the season.
Thank you.
But he was, talking about, he was player of the season in terms of surpassing expectations by a mile, rivaled maybe by Miles Lewis-Skelly. The performance, his numbers are excellent. The classiness of his finish, his touch around the box. You see some of that in midfield, but somehow he needs to get into the box for you to really appreciate his ability. I know you said at one stage he's a little slow in turn. But actually, you know that thing he does around the flag when he celebrates the celebrate? He does that around players in midfield too at times. So we're still puzzling him out. I'm not confident enough to say, yeah, he's in the frame for play. We're still working out what he is. But he obviously has some serious attributes that contributed to our season.
Fascinating player to discuss, I think, because in a team that's crying out for someone to get on the end of moves and score goals, he has done that. And he has done that at a rate that I don't think any of us expected, and he has been a hero for us. And yet, we find ourselves in a situation as we reshape the squad and add to it this summer where that role will have to be reinvented again, Andrew. I don't think he's going to play striker next season, although what do I know? Clearly not much. But then there's going to be more competition in midfield, and Declan Rice is a wonderful 8. Martin Odegaard's still there. Zubamendi's coming in. So do you have thoughts maybe on just how his role might evolve and what he might give us next season?
Me?
Yeah.
I think he just gives us depth in midfield where we're going to need it. Hopefully we're in a situation where that depth can be applied to midfield and he's not pressed into action as a striker. I think it is obviously, was definitely not the plan for him to play there, but I think he can give us a lot of depth in midfield, and there are relationships. Mikel Arteta talks a lot about relationships on the pitch, doesn't he? And I think he spent a lot of time playing with Zubamendi at Real Sociedad, so maybe that's a relationship that can work for us in ways we don't necessarily understand or think about just yet. But no, I think I'm confident that he can contribute and score goals, maybe give us goals from midfield, because we haven't always had that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got this question quite a lot, both before the show and during. I'm going to ask you to actually get something back there, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
This question is, will there be a surprise guest for the show tonight? And the answer is yes. There will be a surprise guest, and that guest is imminently arriving. So we are going to bring out a
Sure. Hang on. Let me get the
Yep.
thing.
what's the stool? That's the thing that we're going to bring out. And this is called, in the profession, we call this vamping. I'm currently vamping. And I think we're going to have that special guest on the stage very soon, which is very exciting.
Very soon.
These are all words.
These
I
are
am
words that you
speaking
use to
words.
fill in time.
And the words are
Elliot,
filling time.
could you perhaps, go back into the past and sell us that water bottle?
You want me to do some TV
I
shopping?
want you to do some TV shopping if you
I
need to pass the
swear
time.
it was a horse.
I know it was a horse.
So let me just say this by way of introduction. I think the person we're going to bring out feels a debt of gratitude for the fundraiser, certainly.
Yes.
And just for support. And someone that we, I think, also feel gratitude towards and want to support. But I know that it was important for him to come out and say some words to us. So I don't think we have him for a long time because he's quite busy tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And in the interest of that, I am receiving information as we speak. Okay, and so now it is my absolute pleasure to introduce the manager of Arsenal Football Club, Mikel Arteta. Let's hear it.
We know exactly what we did. Clearly out the back.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much for taking the time to come and see us this evening. We know you're very busy. There's a lot going on, a big game tomorrow. But I know you wanted to come and maybe say a few words to our communities, to the Arsenal family that you talk so much about, the connection that you talk about, and I'm sure you've just felt that connection right now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, good evening to everybody, and thank you for the welcome. So we just heard about the event, and Kate, to be honest, she was the one that told me about what was happening here and explained the story. So we're just around the corner. We are in the team hotel because obviously we're playing tomorrow, as you know. And we didn't want to miss the opportunity, me in behalf of the team, the club, first of all to say massive congratulations for the impact that you guys are having within the community to raise and do all the work that you've done with us and our foundation. It is incredible, so very well done for that.
I guess you get the opportunity to talk to fans quite a lot. by way of the media, I guess. You know, in press conferences, it's possible for you to say things and send a message to supporters. To do it here now in front of everybody is maybe a little bit different. But
it is warmer, it is more personal, but yeah, from the bottom of my heart, I think all the players, the staff, everybody around the club really feels the same way. Thank you so much for an incredible connection with our team, for the support that you give us at home, away, for the people that lives their hearts, their passion to this football club. We really appreciate it. There's still a lot to do in the next 2 games for sure, so if we can continue to do that and finish the season strong, I know that we all want more, we're all seeking for more, and we have to push to achieve what we want, but...
I know we can't keep you long, so I'll just finish with this. You've given us a lot of enjoyment and excitement with the way you've built this team over the last 5 years. Are you still as excited and enthusiastic about what's to come and what the potential of this club is with the work you're doing?
Yeah, more than ever, because I see them daily. I see how hungry they are, the quality, the talent, but most importantly, the connection that we have within the club and how much we are willing to do whatever it takes to win for this football club, and obviously all the people that support our football club. So it's coming, be a little bit patient, and I promise we will do all our best.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. We'll all be there tomorrow to cheer on the team and hopefully win that game and take second place. And we better let you go and sort the boys out.
Thank you very much again. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Look at this guy.
Not bad, right?
Holy moly.
And for our next trick,
Yeah. Fucking I was just thinking, how are we going to follow that next year?
I don't know.
The ghost of Herbert Chapman appearing live.
Thierry
We'll
Henry.
try,
We're
we'll
taking
try.
requests now, are we? Thierry Henry? We could do that. Maybe if we're just sitting here as, Premier League champions, that might be the thing that
That's
gets
true,
everybody
yeah,
enthused.
yeah.
So, and I don't want to misquote the man, but he just promised it right there.
Pretty
didn't he?
much promised it.
I think that's what he said anyway. No, but listen, it was amazing for him to come and take a few minutes out of what is a very busy schedule, preparing for a match tomorrow. So we're very, very grateful to Mikel and for the people at the club for facilitating that and for making it happen. So thank you guys. That
That was cool, right?
Yeah.
That was cool.
Really good.
Not bad.
He heard Clive say we got to kick the ball hard, and he's like, I got to get him on my staff. Got to get that guy on my staff.
Taking notes.
Yeah, mate, I better go and speak to that bloke.
I think the one thing that you get, the intensity, the sense of seriousness. I know everybody always wants more and more and more in football, but there's a lot of clowns out there, and that is a serious individual, and I'm very thankful that we had the chance to see him here. And it is just really quick, important to emphasize, that's because of how much the club recognizes and appreciates the generosity you've shown at a time when that's not always easy. So thank you for helping make that possible. So this is a good question then off the back of that, I think. And James, I'll ask you this one. And it might sound a little strange in the moment, but I actually think it's the question, which is, are Arsenal favorites for the Premier League next year? And if not, who would be?
I think you can definitely make that case that we are. Like, I think it's all dependent on the business, the transfer business. If Arsenal get what we can all see they need, then I see no reason why they shouldn't win next season's Premier League. Honestly, I think you look at the competitive clubs, I think there's as many question marks over them as there are over us. And I think we've got a really talented squad. We've got an incredibly motivated manager who's done such an excellent job to get us to this point. I felt like that coming into this season. And as you know, things didn't quite fall out that way. But yeah, I see no reason why not.
Andrew?
My leg is still shaking. I nearly fell over at one point.
You see, the thing is, he was right beside Andrew, but I could have touched him. I kept thinking...
We spoke about that a lot at the interval, Paul.
And I didn't. But I could have reached out and...
Did you see the size of the security guys? I just want to make sure you...
No.
Okay, fair enough.
It's a good job.
Yeah, look, I guess I would say this, right? If you look at the trajectory of some of the teams that have won leagues in recent seasons, Liverpool are a great example of where they had an injury hit season, they were 5th. The next season, they had 97 points. They were back down in the 60s again, they were back up in the 90s. And we sometimes, I think, presume that the trajectory will be a smooth and linear one, but it is the case that no matter how good you are, some things have to break your way. And if things break our way next season, I think we'll be right there. It's going to be City, Liverpool, or Arsenal. I think it's going to be one of those three teams.
How are Man City going to win the Premier League in League Two?
No, sorry. I meant that win league. They can win the championship.
But I take your point.
Yeah, they win the championship. That's fine. Well, Tim, let me ask you this. What do you think would have happened to Arsenal's season if Kai and Jesus had remained uninjured?
I mean, it would have been a bit better, wouldn't it?
Again, more...
Kick the ball hard.
They don't all need long answers, sometimes.
Yeah, see you later. That'll do. Yeah, I mean, it would have been quite a lot better. I think whether, to be honest, whether we would have challenged for the league with, I think the Saka injury is probably the biggest one, to be honest. But yeah, Kai, certainly more Kai Havertz, I think, than Gabriel Jesus. But even Gabriel Jesus, at the point he got injured, that's just so frustrating, where he's just starting to score goals again. You're just beginning to see him again a little bit. And then for him to go down when he does, I mean, it was a kick in the balls, wasn't it? It really, really was. I can't answer any other way than it would have been a bit better. It might have been enough to get us to the Champions League final. I'm not convinced it would have been enough to win us the league, but I think it would have got us to the Champions League final.
Yeah, I think, Clive, one thing that we maybe take for granted is just how important it is to be able to power up in games. And the injuries of Kai and Jesus not only cost us having an actual striker, but the ability to power up. When we saw some of the things we had to do in games, bringing on Kieran Tierney to play left wing, it's not ideal. So do you think maybe the PSG tie is an example of where we played well enough, but maybe we didn't have that person who could power us up in attack and get us over the line?
Yeah, we just had too many people not playing, and that's the key, right? And we had 3 or 4 kids on the bench that were not going to play, right? And they were just there filling the numbers up. When you're bringing on Tierney to play against Real Madrid at left wing, that means something's already broken, right? It's not his position. And so for me, it's very important, although we're all desperate, it's very important for me to stay on plan. We have a plan, stay on it, make sure we buy correctly and not just buy for this moment of frustration and how we feel. Because once you get it wrong, you can end up looking like Manchester United or Tottenham at the bottom end of the league. 3 or 4 mistakes, that's all it takes, right? You look around at the teams like Bournemouth, Brighton, Fulham, Crystal Palace, look at Aston Villa's ascension. There's smart clubs out there who've been really aggressive in the market and really smart. We can't afford to be dumb because we're a bit frustrated, right? So I hope they stay on plan and add the pieces that we need.
Yeah, I mean, Arsene Wenger once said, and he can tell you this when he comes out next, but he once said, you go up by the stairs and down by the elevator, right? And if you make dumb decisions, you can be Manchester United. And speaking of them, Jason Green, who went through the effort, I guess, to do whatever registration this website required to get his name on the question, so thank you, Jason. James, I'll ask you this. How do I manage my anxiety leading up to next week's Europa League final, and is it okay to be a United fan for 120 plus minutes?
I think it is okay in this instance. I have to say, I'm not looking forward to this game at all. I think I'll probably pretend it's not happening, whatever the outcome. And if they could in some way sort of annul it or stop it happening, I'd be all for it. But yeah, I think the lesser... I mean, they're two such pronounced evils, but I think perhaps the lesser evil is Manchester United in this instance. I cannot have Tottenham winning a European trophy. So yeah, look, good luck to us all surviving that.
I'm just not going to watch.
You're not watching that game, no.
No way.
I mean, the season that it's been, I've got a horrible feeling about what might happen, but I hope I'm wrong.
Oh, okay, well, let's pretend that didn't just happen. Paul, I'll ask you this, then Clive, I'd love to get your take on this too. How can we play better against teams who play in a mid or low block and don't offer space? I think one of the things we've taken for granted over the last few seasons is this record of not losing to the Big Six, and in fact, beating them quite a lot. I think it's over 700 days since we've lost to one of those teams, and that's a lot of fun, because those games didn't used to go that way for us. But it is the low block teams, it is the mid block teams when they get in that block and they're organized that we've struggled to break down. So how can we play better against those teams?
You know what I love about you? You never quit on me. You ask me football questions with like deep football knowledge required for it, and I keep disappointing you.
And how do you feel I'm feeling about that right now?
And you've never quit on me, and you come back again.
It's always the first time.
Here's my answer. I think Zubimendi makes a huge difference he can drop in deep, pick up the ball. He's a player who makes it look like he keeps it simple, but what that allows you to do, he's so good Where's Mikel? You know what I think about him? He reminds me in one part of his game about Mikel Arteta when he played for us at the 8. Little guy. Oh, I'm glad he's not here. Little feet. Goes into challenges. Always comes out with the ball. His close control, the way he kept it. People, again, I'm glad he's not here. People used to go on about him like keeping it boring and ticky-taka to one side to the other side. Like, I think we'll see.
If he was here, he's gone now, I'd say.
Yeah. So I think he brings an element of control to the game that allows us to push up our players more aggressively from midfield. Now, I did watch an analysis recently, but you get both of your... You don't need two midfielders back to cheat to cover the guy who's on the ball. That gets you more aggressive in the midfield, on the wings. Everybody can cheat forward, look forward, somebody can make the run in behind. Like, what do you need with a mid-block? You need different things coming from different angles. You need a player sitting deep who everybody trusts to not lose the ball, not get into trouble, make clever little choices that set up the next pass for the guy who gets it over the top or through. So I think Zubimendi is a huge game changer as I try to understand his game.
Yeah, I think it can be. I certainly think that playing progressively first time, just the tempo with which we move the ball up the pitch can increase, and I think he can do that. Clive, how about you? What's the trick to being more effective against low blocks?
I think the low block thing is not a problem just for Arsenal. I think it's a problem for football.
Yeah, it's true.
I think everyone knows. I mean, if you look at the game now, how many games do you watch? Attack versus defence. You can see the shapes. You can see the 4-4-2 block. Blah blah blah. And everyone finds it hard. It's not just our problem. There are things you can do. Obviously carrying helps and off the ball movement helps. But really, it's a team thing. It's a connection thing. I think once you have some patterns of play that allow you to go through teams, it's really key. I can see us playing a lot closer to our goal, maybe, although that's nervy, but you create some depth in the pitch. That's really important. And Arsenal playing 4 lines and involves our goalkeeper. And I do think having a second goalkeeper, by the way, is really important. Otherwise, we can't replicate that. So that 4 lines of attack, that depth allows us to play through. And I think that's when you do get people out of their blocks. But I think football's becoming, at some stages now, because of the financials involved in the Premier League, it's becoming a little bit risk averse for everybody. Right? So.
Yeah, and it is the case that there's more talent in the Premier League than ever. And when you have good defenders with good coaches organizing them in a low block, that's not easy to break down. I mean, we saw Manchester City have a 0-0 draw against Southampton just, what was it, last weekend?
And they lost the cup final.
And they lost the cup final. But just so we're clear, there is one man whose principles rise above, who will not sit in a low block, and that is Ange Postecoglou. And I think we can agree he can keep doing that as long as he likes. I want to go down the table for this one because I think it is the relevant thing. And Andrew, just tell me when I'm, give me a wrap-up symbol when it's time for us to all go get drinks together. Tim, what does your perfect summer transfer window look like? Doesn't necessarily have to be names, but what are the key few moves that you regard as being necessary to say we nailed it this summer, which I don't think we did in January specifically?
Yeah, we didn't quite nail January, did we? I think getting at least one player who can score 15 or 20 more goals. Obviously, we're all talking about the striker, and I think a lot of us, when we talk about the striker, we think 30 goals, but I really think just another guy that scores 15 would do like a lot for us. So I think it's 2 forwards, definitely. Second refrigerator, we definitely need that in case... I
mean, I've seen our backup goalkeeper try to save a ball from 10 yards outside of the box. I'm now on board with getting a backup keeper.
Keeping Raheem Sterling to a massive contract, I think. No. And yeah, a little bit more creativity. But when we talk about creativity as well, I think a lot of us think like Ozil, through balls, drag backs and stuff like that. But I think of it, I think you were kind of saying this almost like more devastation. So like Zubimendi, first time passer, whether we get Nico Williams, I don't know, but someone who's just very, very direct. And like there was a season about 15 years ago, I think Peter Crouch was the top assister in the Premier League, which I think tells you, I'm not saying we should sign Peter Crouch. No. But, creativity comes in many different ways. So I think like more devastation and more people that kick the ball at the goal very, very hard would be very, very good.
Clive, what about you?
Oh, mate, I've been thinking about this a lot. I think goalkeeper, definitely. A young right-footed centre-back.
Yep.
Definitely. I think we play William Saliba quite a lot, and I think it's not right. So, obviously, number 6, we know who's coming. I think you need a wide man that can play both sides with a lot of devastation, a lot of carrying, and a lot of speed. I don't want him to be a number 10 wide man. I want him to be a true wide man. That's his role. And obviously a centre forward. If I was going to go to 6 players, I'd have a right-footed, creative midfielder that could flip onto the left-hand side of the pitch, just so we have that player. So rather than have our creative number 10 player on the right, sometimes we flip the script and go to the left. If we can show a different face, I think that'll be perfect. So.
Yeah, well said, James.
I mean, not much to add to that, really, from Clive. A couple of left-backs, maybe. It's tradition.
How many left-backs? All of them.
But yeah, I mean, Clive's list is exhaustive. I don't want to be greedy, because I like the idea of a creative midfield player, a wide player, and a centre forward. I think if we in this window got 2 of those 3, I think it would do a world of good for us. Yeah. Ideally 3, but 2 would really help.
And finally, Andrew. No, I'm just kidding. I gave up on you. No, Paul.
You quit on me.
I did quit on you. What's your perfect window?
Oh, there's the hope back in your eyes.
That's fear.
I'm going to go with names, so you know the kinds of types, but Zubimendi in midfield. Victor Gyökeres as striker. He gives you that busyness. I just don't see how he doesn't help us and make us stronger. He does enough of everything. Does it fully translate to the Premier League? Probably. Nico Williams, left wing, like a absolute demon of a dribbler.
Yep.
From wide. And centre back. There's lots of things we need to do. The other big question is that creativity in midfield, and the big call for the manager, for the club, is because you have Nwaneri, and he's kind of the backup to Odegaard, and he's made a big step this year, and then we kind of protected him a little bit towards the end. So they've got to make a big projection as to will he take a big step forward next year or will he progress? Because you want a guy who could attack, dribble, through midfield, run, create. It will be him. We just don't know if it'll be next year or not. But it's not 3 years away. It's next year or the year after. So that's the big call for do they need something. We got a lot of midfielders. We'd have Kai, we'd have, what's that guy's name? Declan Rice. We'd have Marino, all playing that left 8 spot potentially. So there's a big call about, you'd have, Nwaneri. That's 5 across 2 positions. Big call to make about we've gone beyond worrying about blocking young players, except he's a bit special.
Yeah, I mean, investing in the squad is important. Investing in the talent that's coming through is important. And if you don't do one or the other, you get criticized for not doing it, right? So if you sign someone and he doesn't light it up, people say, why doesn't he trust youth? If you trust youth and that youth player isn't quite ready to make the step up, it's why didn't we invest? So very difficult needle to thread. How would you thread it, Andrew?
I really don't know what I can add to that other than I would say, the focus will be on attack and a winger and a striker. Hopefully, I think Paul makes a really good point about Nwaneri and maybe where he'll play or where he could fit into the team. I think we've seen in the past young players start out wide and then move more central. Or can we do something crazy at times and play Nwaneri there and maybe think about Bukayo Saka as a more central option, which I think would be an interesting tactical development. At the back, I think another player who has similar characteristics to, not fitness characteristics, but playing characteristics to Tomiyasu would be just perfect for this team. I think we've asked too much of Timber. We asked too much of Ben White. Gabriel got a big injury. I don't think we can ask the same of William Saliba again next season. So somebody who can give us a bit more depth and quality at the back, I think, is a really important part of this summer's transfer window.
Clive, you want to add?
Oh, I've done it really. I agree totally. I think it's funny how we spent a lot of time talking about our defence, but you build a team that way, don't you? You build a team that way. I think when you don't have it, you soon know when you haven't got that stability. So I do think a right-footed defender to come into the group. I know it's not exciting, but I think it's required, right?
Yeah. So we'll do one more. This one is, I think, a tricky one. I'm going to actually take a quick stab at it and then pass it around a little bit. But what is the number one thing that makes us champions next season? And in parentheses, they put signings, tactics, 11 men on the field, lol. And this is where I think it is so important to zoom out a little bit. The last time I saw a fully fit Arsenal play a series of months together, they won almost every game they played by 3s, 4s, and 5s. So from January to May last season, we were the best team, maybe on the planet, certainly in the country. We just fell short. But there's sort of been this perception now. I think we've retconned the reality of our squad, which is it's deficient, completely deficient, and it needs all this investment to be good. And let's be fair, the lack of investment can lead to the injury through overplaying, so I don't want to downplay that. But I do think that if we stay fit next season, no matter how impactful the new signings are, we are going to see an Arsenal that the last time I saw them were beating everyone they came up against. So, again, I do not want to suggest that the investment isn't necessary, but if the investment simply helps us stay fitter longer. Pep Guardiola, for all of his baldness, as we've referenced before.
And who lost the FA Cup final.
And he lost the FA Cup final. He's kind of done this thing, right, each season where they start out of the blocks a little slow and he's maybe not using his best players and people who play fantasy are like, I hate Pep, I never know if the player's going to play. But what happens? The end of the season, they get on a tear because he's managed the squad and he's got them all fit and firing and they go on a tear. And I think as long as we can help our players be ready to make a run in like we did last season, I think fitness can ultimately be the deciding factor. James, what about you?
Yeah, actually, I totally agree. I think fitness is the number one thing. All these other factors are important, and I don't mean to dismiss the market or the business side of it. I just think key players being available at the same time. If we have that luck, then I think we've got every chance.
Yeah, and then the last question is for you, Clive. Is that enough of that?
Indeed.
I
think.
Do we want to just say some final words then?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, just a reminder to the people who won the raffle. Come up to the stage afterwards. We're going to go off. I'll come back with the prizes and just have your ticket there, and we can sort that out for you. If you would like to hang around and join us for a drink up in the bar, that is where we're going to be afterwards, so we can have a beer. And that guy there needs a beer, 100%. And just again to say thank you to all of you for being here tonight, but more importantly, being with us every week. Every season, it is for us an absolute privilege to be able to do what we do and to have you guys here so we can share our gratitude and recognition of that is really, really important to us. We hope you've had a good night. We hope to do this again next season and have some silverware on the table before we bring out Thierry Henry, of course. So just thank you so much. It's been brilliant. Have a great night. We might see some of you upstairs. Anyone else? It's just the best. We have such a great time doing this, and thank you again.
Yeah, please stay. Please come have a drink. Take a picture. We love you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.